Welcome, everybody. I know I'm running live. This is Wisdom Keys with myself, Brother Francis, and I'm happy to be here. This is Wisdom Keys, and today's topic is the beauty of being yourself. As soon as I set up my camera properly. So, this is an opportunity where we come on, each one of us that's available to do this, to be with all of you. I'm here every Thursday, usually at 1 p.m. I was running a little late on schedule today. And tomorrow at 12 noon is Swanda, which is the owner of Resonant Essentials, which is Michelle Vidal. And then on Mondays at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, all these times Mountain Standard Time, on Monday, Mountain Standard Time, there is Audrey Wilson from the UK with her beautiful program. Also on Saturdays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time is our own astrologer, Johanna Rader. Yeah, it's good to see you too, Tina. So I'm a little tired because I just got finished working out. I have an exercise partner that helps me. My dear brother Harold comes by at least once a week, and we work out together. So helps me get in shape. So anyway, so I'm here every Thursday, usually at 1 p.m. I'm just running a little late today, so we kicked it off at 1:10. Every Friday at 12 p.m. is Michelle Vidal. Yeah, and I mentioned your name, Joanna, just a second ago. So Michelle Vidal is on every Friday at 12 p.m. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. is Johanna Rader, who's an excellent astrologer. And if you've never got an astrology natal chart done or progression or whatever, you should definitely contact her. She's excellent at what she does. And then we have on Mondays at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we have from the UK, Audrey Wilson, who's an excellent medium and teacher of that. And then on Tuesdays, we have Donna of Dominion Tarot, and she comes on with her program. Either it's at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. Hi there, Sister Bernadette. So, what I'm going to talk about today is, and I always use myself as a living example. So if anybody was to tune in and said, well, where are you getting these things that you talk about, is all from what I'm doing, what I'm experiencing myself, and I'm being courageous enough to be transparent enough to let you know that I'm not Mr. Perfect either. So today's topic is called The Beauty of Being. And it goes dot, 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 yourself. The beauty of being yourself. And being ourselves is highly important. It's something we definitely have to check in with. And in order to be ourselves, we need to check in on ourselves. It's all about self care and a willingness to honor the ups and the downs. I know in a lot of the indigenous practices, be it here in what we would call Native American, but the indigenous tribes here in America, as well as the other indigenous tribes, the African indigenous tribes, the South American indigenous tribes, and so on and so forth, all the way around the world. They speak of this desire to be mindful and respectful of the ups, which is your higher self, and the downs, which is the lower self, or the ups, which they call the light work. Everybody wants to be light worker, and we're working the light, and we are working on ourselves to stay in the light. But we have our shadow sides. We all do. I have them, and I know you have them. So this is also being aware of the shadow side. That should be maybe the subtitle. So the title is Beauty of Being Yourself. But the other side of this coin is we all have a shadow side. The side that creeps in is like the side of you that's in the closet that you may not want to show completely to the world, but you can. And that shadow side gets a workout. You know, there's an old Cherokee, um, an old Cherokee, I would say like a proverb or a quote, and it has two wolves, and it has a child, and it has a parent, and the parent is looking at the child, and the child is enamored by the wolves, but one is considered a shadow wolf, and the other is considered a light wolf. And the parent or the spirit figure is telling the child, which one shall you feed? Are you going to feed the shadow side, or are you going to feed the light side? But there's another side of that, which is being aware that they exist in you. So being aware that the shadow side, as well as the light side, commingle and they exist inside of you. And so when we think about what are we feeding, uh, part of the shadow side could be anger, self-hatred, sabotaging yourself, illusionary thoughts that you have about yourself, the ego, the downside of having an ego, the side that may be manipulative, a side that could be untruthful, a side that could be uncaring, a side of you that could be unloving, even to yourself, as well as, letting that override you and it flows into your world. And so we are often dealing with these parts of ourselves. And as a light worker, or if you want to call yourself a light social activist, you still have to work on those parts of yourself. You can never leave the shadow side, the ego side, unattended. You can't, because what will happen is it will accumulate. Things will build up. So what turns out to be the tiniest of things that were tiny obstacles in your life, those things will override you, and they will begin to mushroom. They will get bigger and bigger. Now it becomes like an avalanche, and it's pressing into you, pressing you up against, as they say, the rock and the hard spot. So you're between the rock and the wall, and you're being pressed and pressed into that until you look at it. And so it is something, in order to honor the beauty of ourselves, from the indigenous all over the world, they say a part of your beauty, your walk of beauty, is to recognize that you do have a shadow self, and that you have to attend to that shadow self, and you have to work it out. You have to smooth out the rough edges, the dark corners where the webs are, the things that you have hidden from yourself, let alone hidden from the world. So when you are able to allow yourself to face those things, then a richer and deeper healing begins to unfold in yourself. A richer, deeper healing, because now the pressure that you had, that was building up inside, that was pressing onto your brain, pressing onto your heart, your emotions, your feelings, your physical self, now can be released. It can be let go of. And as we let go of it, we are honoring ourselves. So we have to, a part of this is learning how to set up a boundary for, even for ourselves. We can set up a boundary even for ourselves. So I'll take a perfect example. I'm struggling with my weight issues, overeating. Now, what's happening is I'm eating healthy foods, but I'm still overeating. Because that part of me will go, that shadow side says, I should double up on the plate. I should double up on the bowl. I should double up on the portions. And I should just have more and more and more, when I don't need to. I don't need to uh, beat up the body with so much food, even when it's good food, to overload it. That's like being in a car, and you know how it is. You're trying to crank the car up. So during the winter time or any other day, you try to pump it with gas, right? Car's been sitting for a while, so you're trying to pump it with gas so you can click that ignition and get the sparks between the spark plug bottom and the wire. But what someone tells you is eventually you keep giving it gas, you keep pumping gas into the line, eventually you overflow the line. So it's like you're strangling the car. It's the same thing. We overload ourselves with food, we can strangle the body. Even with things that are good, we could choke ourselves out. We can we can create now an allergy that we didn't have before because we got too much of something in our system. So that was something that I was learning this entire week, let alone other issues outside can build up and they latch on to that. So I had to restructure myself with the help of friends, restructure myself, restructure what I'm doing, and get back to the basics of creating a boundary even for myself. So by doing so, I lightened my own load. And now the beauty that's on the inside can come to the outside. I'm getting back into wearing my favorite colors again. Blue is me. I love any shade of blue. I love a teal blue, which is in this state. I love this blue. I love a Persian blue. Um, Many of you see me wear a hat that's called a golden halo. That's for my birthday, and for the rest of the year, they have this hat, cobalt blue, Persian cobalt blue hat with this little light brim going on it. But anyway, it's about in order to heal ourselves or in order to help others heal, we have to heal ourselves. And as light workers, energy workers, numerologists, astrologers, tarot people, mediumship people, intuitives, empathics, Reiki, you name it, we still have to work on balancing. So when it gets to this point of beauty on the inside, the beauty of being is a word that it could be used as a noun or pronoun or specifically a verb, being in action. To be is the verb and being is the adjective side. So we want to put ourselves in that where we're in motion all the time. And then there's learning how in this world of self-care, as we are energy workers, we have to get back and retreat to ourselves where we can add on to our routine so it's not so rigid. Because sometimes when we make something very rigid over and over and over and over again, we wear ourselves down. So we got to have room for play, have room for reading, have room for maybe creating something that you want to create in your home or outside your home, going out into nature. I mean, one of the reasons why I came here to live once I understood the prediction of my mother saying, "You're going to live in Albuquerque," telling me that when I was 27 years of age. Had nothing, had no mindset about New Mexico, even though I thought about at one point coming to Arizona, to Phoenix, because I wanted to see the artwork because I was an art major in college, but I never did it. But here, I'm here now. So it's this longing to be beautiful from the inside out, not just from the outside in, but from the inside out. So when we reach inside ourselves, there is a beauty that's there. There is a rough diamond that's there. There is a rough core that we can chip away at and we can fashion and refashion and make it beautiful. And when we make that part of ourselves on the inside more beautiful, then we have that to also present to the world. But we also have to keep some in the reserve tank. I've come to the understanding as an energy worker and a teacher and person in the metaphysics and going in, studying many different disciplines, even before I got to this point, that I must honor Francis, who's on the inside, the beauty of Francis that's on the inside. And I must look at his joys, his ups and his downs, his shadow sides and his light side. Because in order to be purely giving yourself to the light, you must understand the dark side, the shadow side, what makes it tick. And all the shadow part of yourself and the ego part of yourself, it wants something to do. It wants to blend itself back into the light. And the only way it can do that is to see how it got to be where it is at its core, and then dismantle it, and then heal it, and then purify it, and more healing, bring it back together piece by piece, and offer it first to ourselves. There are sides of ourselves we're not supposed to throw away. Do you know you're not supposed to crush your ego? No, you could recreate your ego. You could heal it because it's an aspect of you. It's not something walking around out here by itself. So we create a way to go into the body of the ego. We create a way to go into the body of the shadow side. And the only way that really works is to embrace it, meaning to understand it, accept it, and then work with it, and work on it. Sending as much unconditional love into all the nooks and crannies that were dark. The unconditional love becomes the light, the universal light that each and every one of us has. And we shine that light into ourselves, and we find a light that's on the inside that we begin to shine out with. And it's a bright light. So as we begin to do that, beauty is a thing to behold. The beauty of ourself is a thing to behold. The shadow side sometimes might be the empty side of ourselves. We can be empty, where we don't feel we have anything else to give, anything else to do. But if we look inside, go as far as we can on a rope of unconditional love and go inside, we will be able to see that there is a beauty there that needs to be brought forward. There's a balance that needs to be brought forward. There's a healing, a sense of wellness and wholeness that needs to be brought forward. And all those things, all those sharp, jagged edges like glass, can begin to be smoothed out and melted down back to the original. And what is the original of the light and the original of the shadow? It's nothing more than energy, and how we choose to use that energy. We're number one. Each one of us is first. And then the second one is yourself again, just to make sure you're balanced from within. Make sure that unconditional love is sitting upon your throne, grace, divine grace, compassion, understanding, greater wisdom. All these things are sitting on your throne, in your lap, and you get a chance to share it with the world. Having boundaries for yourself, boundaries for others, boundaries for the world. Loving the shadow self enough that it will change, loving the ego enough that it will change. All desires to do good or better will change, because you just get better and better and better. But you won't be overloaded, overflowing with stress, negativity. Because sometimes we don't look at something right away that's disturbing, and we say, okay, we're going to look at it later. And then sometime later never gets here because we added on something else the day after. or later in the day. And now it's the day after and the day after. So now this thing that was just a tiny, tiny seed starts to mushroom, and it gets bigger than a grape, bigger than a cabbage, bigger than an ear of corn, and bigger than your head, bigger than your body. Now it's a mound of stuff that's overriding the system and creating toxicity in the ethers around us, and definitely toxicity inside. And we have no business having that much toxicity inside as well as outside. So as we wind this down, I shared this with you, a part of my week, because I believe that all of us, to some extent, and you don't have to, this is what I've learned from myself to become more transparent. So when I'm teaching, to actually put myself out there as a living example of an up day and a down day. Honesty, it creates more balance, honestly, for myself when I do that. You don't have to do that. But I figure at this age, turning 68 into 69, a week from Tuesday coming up, this Tuesday coming up, a week from that day, I turn this terrific number 69. My whole goal is to be better, to be younger, to be stronger, to be wiser, to be more understanding, and also to be a better listener than now than I ever was ever before, to learn how to listen clearly to someone. This is where, um, I was on TikTok last few days ago, and I took a six-part series of 59 seconds, and I talked about in those 59 seconds, six parts, the four agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz's book. And, the four agreements are: be impeccable with your word. And the second one is do not take anything personal. All right. And the third one is don't make any assumptions. And then the fourth one is actually more or less brings you back. It's actually, the fourth one is more like a summary. It's actually doing all the other three and being aware that you can do all the other three. So I was teaching that, and I think that's how this experience grew out of it. Even with yourself, when you're seeking to have more beauty and harmony, a harmonic peace, more unconditional love, greater understanding with yourself, you can't assume anything about yourself. One of the things is you have to be absolutely impeccable with your own word, even to yourself. That's not including anybody outside of you, a partner, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, your neighbor, a coworker, someone you haven't seen before. Even before all of that, you've got to apply being impeccable to yourself with your own word, your own thoughts. Then you have to not take anything personal about yourself, because you're work in action. And then you can't assume anything that you understand. Many of us go through things, and I've used to do it too. I could hear somebody explaining something, but I was so excited in my ego that I kind of walked over and talked over them, because I assumed that they were on the same page with me. They weren't. They were talking about something else, but I was not listening in the way that I could listen so that I could understand what the person was telling. And so we start to do the work on all these different aspects of ourselves. It is definitely, we are always trying to find ourselves. We're trying to see who we are and see who we need to be, but who do we really want to be? What is that innermost desire that we want to be? So take a moment and write down, what is it that you are striving to be at this moment in your life? Where you think you're headed, but where do you want to really go? What do you want to really do? as late Reverend Ike would say, what is it that you really want to be, really want to do, and then really want to have? And when you break it down into those three categories, sometimes you'll be on the being part for a long time. And then you get to the doing part, you realize some of the stuff you're trying to be doesn't fit into the puzzle piece. It may fit into another puzzle piece, but not in the one that you're really trying to do something, seeking to do something. And then when you get to having, what is it you really want to have? When you narrow it all the way down, it gets back to the basics. Many of us want greater love, unconditional love, peace, harmony, and happiness, greater understanding, more compassion, more openness to the spirit of divine grace. So that realm comes in and ignites every other realm. So we have to work at who we desire to truly want to have as that pureness of ourselves. So, with just 2 minutes to go, let's turn this into a meditation with yourself where you now understand that in order to have the beauty come forward, the shadow self has to be identified at its core. Then embrace, meaning understanding that's what it is, embrace it. Now we can let it go. So envision yourself or do it now. Be something very minute that could represent the shadow self. And then you embrace it by caressing it in the palm of your hand and looking at it and saying, "Oh, this is the core of that." And then you're letting it go and you're opening yourself up to the light that's right behind it, the pure essence of light, of unconditional love, of truth, honesty, you name it, grace divine. Underneath all of that is that new light. And see it like a bird flap its wings, come into you from behind you, into your heart, throughout your body, and it's gone into the universe. Like a prayer that is answered. And you feel that and you see that and you just let it be, whatever it needs to be. And while you're doing that, remember tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mountain Time is Michelle Vidal with her program Swanda. Saturday at 2 p.m. is Johanna Radar doing orbital astrology. And she always gives us the week in advance, what the energies are like in advance, so we know how to work with those energies, what to expect, how to work with those energies around us and in our lives. On Mondays is from the UK, Audrey Wilson, giving a beautiful talk, The Whisper of Truth, the things that she's learned along the way. On Tuesdays at about either 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. is Donna of Dominion Tarot, and she comes on with energy cards of the day and explains the teaching from that card. And then she gives little mini tarot readings to one question that you might have or anyone might have. And so we have this revolving door where we're coming on and we're doing things and we're sharing. Also, if you're out here in Albuquerque every Saturday, I have how to connect with the silence part of yourself through meditation. I do that every Saturday at 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at Resonant Essentials. Every second Sunday, we have our psychic and healing fair from 12 to 5 p.m. And there's so many other classes and things going on. All right, I'm going to sign myself out of here. I was late by 10 minutes, so next week I'll be back on time at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time with another live episode of Wisdom Keys with myself, Brother Francis. My grace is your grace. Until next time, remember that divine grace is a blessing as we are alive and well in the age of remembrance. See you all next Thursday, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Be well and take care.